Little Cassandra Peterson is growing up.
She got burned too, right?
Yeah, she got burned as a child.
On Easter.
Burn scars or not, bullied to the point of tears or not, she wanted to be seen.
Did she connect to Vampira's burns?
Like, what do you mean?
Not like did they rub burn scars, but did she see like, oh, she's burned, I'm burned?
Not really. Yeah. They don't have too much time together.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah, enough to have that moment of like, you're burned like I'm burned.
Yeah.
She was bullied a lot for her appearance, but she still wanted attention. Peterson started dancing as early as 5 years old, tap dancing, ballet, and such. When she was 7, the Peterson moved to Colorado Springs, Colorado, where she was once again bullied because of her scarring. And as she gets older, she starts joining theater groups and becomes more active. She starts acting. She grows up loving the Twilight Zone. She loves horror movies. Her mom owning a costume shop has its perk because she's always best dressed for Halloween. At a certain age, her body starts to grow, and I'm talking about necessarily in a perverted way, but yeah, that too. But her burn marks start stretching out with the skin grafting, and it starts sort of like blending.
Oh, so that's good.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, she uses a lot of body cream to cover it up, but like it's
she
less
should use that stuff that eats away the stomach of Vampira.
That'll work. Yeah, that'll help. She becomes more confident about her body. She starts looking a lot older than she actually is. On a trip to California with her family.
I don't like the way you're describing her.
This is the way she described herself in an interview. Okay, it becomes relevant right now. On a trip to California with her family, they stopped in Las Vegas. On this trip,
I really don't like where this is going.
It's kind of odd. On this trip, she convinced her parents to sneak her into a showgirl review at the Dunes Hotel because she wanted to go so bad. She wanted to be a showgirl so bad. They snuck her in. She was 17 at the time because she was so whiny. Then just sitting there, she got noticed by Maitre D. He noticed her growing body, gross, and her on-point makeup because she did that because she wanted to appear more as an adult. And they said that she looked better than some of the dancers. Boy, did it work. He asked her if she was a dancer. She said no, but I want to be. And soon after, the mistress of the show named Fluff came out and began asking her if she wanted to dance. So then they took her backstage and she took her parents to the best seats. And she admitted that she was only 17, but she's like, well, if you get your parents to sign a consent form, we can hire you. Stay an extra day and we'll audition you. And they got her parents to stay another day. She auditioned and they're like, okay, well, you're great. Come back in August. So now she just needs her parents to sign a consent form and they won't. They wouldn't do it. So she basically whined and cried for 3 months until they're like, fine, be a showgirl. So in 1969, she graduated high school and immediately left home for Vegas to become a showgirl.
She must have been listening to Huebner's album. Come on, sign this consent form so I can have an orgy.
Pile of bodies.
Fluff wanted it.
So she becomes, at the time, is the youngest showgirl at the time. And who noticed her but the king himself, Elvis Presley, who can smell ghoul on any woman. And although many reports say they briefly dated, where Peterson
How do you feel about big hoagies?
Many websites say that they briefly dated. They probably hung out for one night.
They just necked.
They probably just necked.
They just necked and waxed philosophical.
About toilets. He warned her to leave Vegas, don't stick around, to which she said, yes, sir. They sang a couple songs at the piano
That's
together.
not what he warned me when he said, Viva Las Vegas.
Don't listen to the song. God Blue Hawaii.
I'll be back.
They sang a couple songs together at the piano and said, hey, you should be a singer. And she immediately started taking vocal lessons, ready to leave Vegas for bigger opportunities, but not before losing her virginity to not the king, but the court jester Tom Jones. And apparently there's something I didn't know about Tom Jones.
That is unusual.
Here's something I didn't know about Tom Jones. He has sort of a Milton Berle reputation.
No, he doesn't.
And their encounter with one another required stitches after a little bleeding. Gross on top of gross on top of gross. He should be arrested.
That's... Moving on. That is horrific.
Looking up like Cassandra Peter biography, guess what the third thing was? So at the age of 17, still 17, she leaves Vegas for Italy.
I hate the 60s.
Consensual sex, oh my God.
Consensual underage sex that requires surgery when you're done. What's weird about that? What happens in Vegas haunts you.
I forgot that it was underage for a minute. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. That's the awful part. Yeah. So in Italy, she becomes a singer for an Italian pop rock band called I Latinus Ochannuts and the Snails, who toured around together.
Goobly gobbly blip blops and the squirrels.
The squirrels. So she also scores a small part in a Fellini film, Roma.
Really?
But that started getting boring, and a contract from Playboy
As Fellini does.
A contract from Playboy and mean French women sent her back to the States. So she once again joins a theater review called Mama and the Boys, which had 7 young men and her. I imagine she was Mama. This was the late 70s now. And now she comes back to LA. And around this time is probably one of my favorite Cassandra Peterson stories. Take a look to the album cover to Tom Waits' Small Change. It has Tom Waits looking cool and beat as hell, and an almost nude redhead dancer standing off to the side by her makeup table. Is this Cassandra Peterson? She can't even remember. She thinks it's her. Drugs. Don't do them. She looks at it like, I think that's me.
I met Tom Waits?
If I met Tom Waits, I would have been like, I know Tom Waits. Around this time, she joins Groundlings in LA, and some of her improv partners are Lorraine Newman, John Lovitz, Phil Hartman, and Paul Pee Wee Rubens.
Imagine if she was on Saturday Night Live, like she made it to Saturday Night Live.
I would have loved that. Just like Mila Nurmi, she's surrounded by talent and fame, just waiting to be activated in some way. I mean, Fellini, Elvis, Tom Jones, Pee Wee Herman, like she's surrounded by all this, but nothing's clicking yet. She has a small part in a movie called Working Girls, which displayed her showgirl talents. She was in an episode of Chips. She was in an episode of Happy Days.
Ooh, that's around the time Vampira went off the air, after episode 666.
And they dragged that thing on.
They jumped the shark after 600. I mean, they had 600 great episodes.
But then the shark jumped after that because it was a bat shark. Come 1980, and Mila Nurmi has resurrected Vampira to help raise money for organizations that help aid stray animals. And Channel 9, KHTV, her old home, sees her and thinks, money. Channel 9 had its own horror host at the time, Seymour, for years, but he was planning on retiring and they wanted to find an adequate replacement.
What a great name.
I seen a picture of him. He kind of looks like, is it John Carradine? When he plays Dracula, he sort of has like a fedora and a little suit. He looks like a sick Doc Holliday.
He's the lodger.
So they contact Mila Nurmi about doing a Vampira-type show using her name, with Mila again in creative control position, willing to pass on the torch of Vampira. And at the time, Nurmi was 65 and living on Social Security in a small apartment in Hollywood. Her negotiations with Channel 9 went on for about 3 months, but there was 2 things rubbing Mila the wrong way. Number 1, she wanted to pick who would be the next Vampira. She has creative control. That's fair. In my opinion, that's fair. There were rumors that she wanted singer and dancer Lola Falana, who was a black woman who sang alongside Sammy Davis Jr. to play the part of Vampira. I can't confirm that or not. I don't know if that's true, but another choice, which was, I think, confirmed, was an English actress named Martine Beswick, who was best known for her role in Thunderball, which is a Bond film. I don't know how... James. The second thing that was bugging her was that she sensed that KHJ wanted creative control of the character, and they pretty much did. They wanted all the rights to Vampira, and that was all she had left, was the rights to this character that she created. That she was the first horror host, and she just doesn't want to give it up, so she backed out of the project. And KHJ TV had already been working on producing this show, so they couldn't have Vampira, so they would hire a new girl, give her a new name, and continue with the show. So that's what they did, and they had a girl in mind. Enter Cassandra Peterson one more time, who is doing crappy jobs like office secretarial work, and she's just waiting for roles. Someone hints to her that Channel 9 is looking for a horror host, but Peterson doesn't even know what a horror host is. She has no frame of reference. Her only frame of reference is Bozo the Clown.
My favorite horror host. He's just a horror host.
He's a host and he's horrible.
He inspires horror.
So she went to this audition unaware of anything, and she found the casting room was full of pale women with fake fangs, all dressed in black. So she auditions for the role, and she's playful because she's an improv and she plays around. She's very likable. She's insanely beautiful, and the role of this newly named Elvira is given to Peterson. And Mila Nurmi publicly lashes out at Peterson, which bums Peterson out because she wants to be liked by this person who had this role, and she can't understand why she's so angry. Do the research, Cassie. Come on.
Why is it Elvira? Why the name Elvira?
There's just changing one syllable. The Vira in Spanish. Elvira's movie Macabre first airs September 26, 1981, with a showing of 1972's Grave of the Vampire. The show doesn't really know how to find its footing. She has her look down, basically. If you're unfamiliar with the way she looks, her breasts are barely covered by a long, slinky dress with a slit up her leg, and she modeled her hair after Ronnie Spector of the Ronettes, with pale makeup and sharp winged eyeliner. At first, she played a role mysterious and sexy and sort of had a almost femme fatale thing, but as the caliber of movies were presented, she started being more playful and joking. She becomes more of a jokester and all of it. She really plays up an 80s Valley Girl tone that was really popular at the time. The show is so full of silly sexual innuendo. It's really funny. Straight up bashing of horror movies. They had a character named the Breather who would call Elvira and tell her really weird jokes. The voice was done by an actor and the writer, I think the writer for the show, named John Paragon, who was also Zombie on Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Which one's Zombie?
Zombie was the gene that lives in the TV.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Hey, Zombie. And she was a hit almost right off the bat. People loved her. Roger Ebert called Elvira a cross between Gina Lollobrigida and Vampirella, not Vampira. Vampirella, again, creation of Forey Ackerman. Her show was, again, a local show, but her playfulness made her a national hit. The following year, 1982, Elvira became the first horror host to be taped in 3D for television broadcast, and more than 2.7 million pairs of 3D glasses were sold, and we all know why.
There were 2 things they wanted to see.
I got one eye for each. And Elvira became a frequent of The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson, and we all know why.
He's got one eye for each.
And his tip to her was to keep the show low budget and kind of grimy. He said that when you get more money, the temptation to upgrade the production value will come, but it'll sacrifice the silliness of the show, which they kind of stuck by. They never upgraded. It was always really low budget. Her husband at the time, Mark Pearson, also happened to be her business manager, along with his partner, Eric Gardner, and Gardner's wife, Janice. The 4 of them together seemed to control the marketing of Vampira, and that's really cool in the end.
What's the name of that police that shot a bunch of cops?
Dorner.
No, not Gardner.
Yeah,
Dorner.
Dorner. Yeah. We're thinking of a black African American.
The black African American.
Yeah, the black guy who was killed in Oakland, right?
Yeah. I thought it was New York.
Oh, was it New York? Who's killed in Oakland? Do we even want to start this?
Do we have enough time to list everyone who was killed?
Unjustly killed by police. So the four of them together, these two couples, had creative control over the marketing of Elvira, and that's pretty cool. Elvira. She started a long-running series of Halloween-themed Coors Light commercials, which they covered her chest up for that, as well as mug root beer, again, covering her chest up. She started making appearances as Elvira at different conventions, on different TV shows, and a variety, like all these products were slapped with Elvira's image. Let's go back for a second to Myla Nurmi, 1982. That same year that Elvira is becoming popular and Myla Nurmi's watching all of this happen, Jersey punk band and lovers of all things horror and B-movie, the Misfits, dedicated a song to Vampira called Vampira. And there's a photo of her with a band standing in front of Vinyl Vanish on Melrose, and it's splendid. They look like they belong together. She looks like the Misfits' grandma. She dressed like Vampira one more time, and kind of like a withered old lady, but it's so cool. If you like the Misfits, it's pretty cool. If you like old women taken care of by young men, it's pretty cool. In Myla Nurmi's later years, she began to get a cult following both as Vampira and as the woman who played her. Both people as a lonely witch woman of Los Angeles, but she was getting credit for that. People loved her as this little old lady who once played Vampira, who was walking around Los Angeles. The underground punk scene would seem to keep her busy. The singer for the punk band The Screamers, Tamanta Duplanty, cast her in his really awful movie Population 1. She sang sorta, mostly just read religious pamphlets along to a beat for 2 songs for the band Satan's Cheerleaders, and I believe the lead singer kind of took care of her. British punk band The Damned dedicated a song to her called Plan 9 Channel 7, which is a really good song. Cut back to Elvira. Meanwhile, around the same time, she takes over responsibility of hosting the annual Halloween Haunt at Knott's Berry Farm, replacing once again replacing Seymour.
You mean Knott's Scary Farm?
I don't know if it was Scary Farm at the time.
Knott's Frightening Farm?
Yeah, Knott's Frightening. Yeah, they want to go for alliteration. The most humble place on earth. Oh, by the way, Seymour's name is Larry Vincent. He also helps keep the tone of the show going from his show to her show. So he is almost credited with helping write it. Anyways, her Knott's gig was a full-on show, a musical comedy review at Knott's, introducing her to an even broader audience. Peterson thought this horror host gig was going to be a temporary thing. She thought she would do improv, be a horror host, and still have to be a secretary all at the same time. She didn't know that was a full-time job. It was a full-time job. And she wasn't really ready for that role yet. It was exciting as but it just wasn't what she wanted. But money. The character won't stop being popular, and she appeared one more time on Alice Cooper's on Feed My Frankenstein with a bunch of other 80s people, and again just kept ballooning out of control to the point where she couldn't control Elvira's image anymore. You almost see the difference between the 50s and the 80s in how they're both portrayed. This is scandalous in the 50s, and this is the 80s version of what Scandal would be, where she's popping out of her top. She's got wild hair. It's funny to look at the two of them and you're what sort of controversy is in each era. Movie Macabre, which was her show, was in production and airs until 1986, but it was in syndication, so reruns continually played for years, some of which were shot for Australia, making Elvira the first international horror host. Around this time, 1985-ish, she has a small cameo in her old Groundlings Pals movie, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, the scene where Pee-wee gets attacked by the bikers in the bar, the redheaded woman who comes up I say you let me have him first. That's Elvira. Well, actually, it's Cassandra Peterson. In 1988, her small circle of business associates, along with John Paragon, Jambi, and another writer, Sam Egan, they write and put together Elvira's first movie, Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, which explains Elvira's origin story. It's very enjoyable if you haven't seen it.
Origin story.
It captures her character perfectly. Meanwhile, Myla Nurmi has been watching as Elvira, again, has ballooned out of control, and she's taking over the world, and she doesn't like it. So in 1989, Myla Nurmi took Cassandra Peterson and KHJ to court, saying that they stole Vampira character, and Elvira was 75 to 80% Vampira, with some parts missing.
They did the DNA test.
You are the mother. Some things were missing, some things were added, but her claim really was that Elvira took Vampira's low-cut black dress and basic pun on B-movie setup, but that's, by this time, every horror host has done this. Eventually, though, Nurmi had to drop the case.
I'd like to see Zachary squeeze into that.
Come on, Sven Gulli, can do it. Nurmi had to drop the case because she lacked the legal and financial support. She lost the lawsuit. It was a huge blow to her. She had to sign the defeated contract. She did it once as Myla and again as Vampira. She signed it twice. So through the 90s, Elvira reruns continue to air, while a slew of Elvira products such as calendars and costumes and comic books and trading cards and pinball machines and dolls are all released. She becomes the most popular horror host of all time, even pretty much to this day. Her image becomes more popular than the show, just like Vampira. We know her more as the character than we know anything from the show. In 1993, there was an attempt to put Elvira in a sitcom, but it didn't really last. It was supposed to be like Bewitched, Elvira in Manhattan, Kansas, where Peterson was born, doing her usual innuendo, but it was a no-go. A Split-Sided put in an article, at 25 minutes, the show almost runs out of double entendres, but it's the third act. Myla's later years crawled along. The year after Elvira's almost show, 1994, is when Tim Burton makes Ed Wood, and he casts his then-girlfriend Lisa Marie as Vampira. And although the two meet to discuss how they want to portray Vampira, ultimately Myla isn't happy with the way that she plays Vampira. The film brings attention back to her, and she truly shines in the interviews where they talk to her as an older woman about her career, because people are so interested in her. One particular person who reached out to her was the titan of comedy, Dana Gould, lover of all things horror and B-movie. And the two strike up a friendship. They're pen pals who live in the same city, and he basically basically becomes her caretaker in later years. And not just Dana Gould, but apparently like many other people who started reaching out to her after Ed Wood, like I said, like paying rent, getting groceries. I think the guy who wrote Vampira, Dark Goddess of Horror watched over her, and the guy who did the documentary Vampire and Me also like cared for her. Peterson around this time is having career issues. She still wants to be taken seriously as an actress, but she's become trapped by the Elvira character, and she found it hard to escape. That's how everyone knew her. And out of makeup, she doesn't look much like Vampira, but people still know, like, she's done it enough times where, like, yeah, you're Cassandra Peterson, you played Elvira, talk to us about Elvira. She continues appearances through the years, popping up at conventions. In 2007, there was an attempt to create a reality show where Peterson, guess what, wants to find someone to replace Elvira. It was called The Search for the Next Elvira, but it ended after one episode, so she has to continue.
They found someone.
Mila Nurmi dies in 2008 of a cardiac arrest, and she is buried at Hollywood Forever Cemetery directly in front of...
Or is she? She is.
She's buried directly in front of Darren McGavin, who played Kolchak, the Night Stalker, whose first TV movie he hunts down a vampire, a Vegas vampire at that.
Even in death.
In 2010, movie Macabre starring Elvira returned, and although everyone loved the idea, it only lasted a year. In 2014...
What was it on?
I think it was mostly like on the internet. In 2014...
What's that?
Hulu picked up 13 Nights of Elvira, which was well received, but it was only like in 13 nights. She sort of has a career like Weird Al, where they never stopped working, but like, oh, they're back. Like every time they do something, oh, they're back. Look at they're back. Many people were very happy to see the return of old campy Elvira, and although I'm sure Cassandra Peterson loves Elvira, I'm sure she does, it seems like it might be ending soon. There are rumors that she will continue to appear at conventions, but no longer as Elvira, possibly retiring the character. She's been suiting up, or down, however you look it up, for 35 years now. She's a beautiful 65-year-old woman, and although I've loved Elvira for most of my life, I'm okay with just seeing Cassandra Peterson from now on. We also had another female horror host for a time named Ivana Cadaver, who I sort of watched for a while. I'll do research on her next time.
Wait till next year, kids.
Yeah, I was swallowed up by research for these two. Like I said at the beginning, we gave birth to the very first horror host and the most popular, and their lives are oddly similar.
I didn't know that she was still doing things.
Yeah, when she came back in 2010, I'm like, oh, she's back, but she never really left. She's been appearing at like Kamikaze for years.
Yeah, but come on, I could appear at Kamikaze.
Bruce Campbell's there, anybody could show up.
The only horror host I'm aware of that has stuff in LA is Sven Gulli, but he's not. He's from Chicago.
Yeah, exactly.
But they broadcast on MeTV Saturday nights at 10.
Thank you, dear. Yeah, Ivana Cadaver was sort of peeking here and there, but I could barely catch her, and I think she stopped doing it. My current favorite, Mr. Lobo, who has Cinema Insomnia, who it only shows online, I believe. He's like San Francisco based, but I think he is.
Yeah, come on, we're not giving them anything.
Yeah, it's San Francisco, I'm sorry. But if you're asking what my favorite is...
Well, I'm not.